Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You got Dank here all by myself tonight, which is not a problem. I've got plenty of stuff to talk about, especially with the legalization initiative that's going to be on the ballot. So we talked about it before. We got more details on it, and I'm just telling you what's going on, and kind of where we're at. Measure 91, the new approach Oregon, which is the former Initiative 53 that we've been talking about earlier, will be on the ballot November 4th. Now, October 14th is the deadline to register to be able to vote in the election. That's 1 month and 19 days. So even though it seems like we got plenty of time to get registered, sooner the better, so you don't forget. In the Willamette Weekly on the 25th of this month, Anthony Johnson, the new approach director and chief petitioner, says, we're in great shape to win, but it's not a done deal. So what we're saying is now is the time to make sure your voter registration is up to date. Make sure everyone in your circle is also current. This is the time to get those naysayers to step up and register. The only way we're going to see re-legalization is through the voting process. The legislature won't or can't, take your pick, get it done. The anti-Measure 91 crowd are coming forward, sort of. Don't believe the misinformation that is being spread, either intentionally or accidentally. Measure 91 will not change the Oregon medical marijuana program law. Measure 91 will not result in more teenagers being arrested. It doesn't change the current law, which is what they're referring to. So it doesn't make it worse, it just doesn't cure the problem. That's the only, so anyway. We want to hear the biggest probably news lately on Measure 91 is the Oregon editorial board has actually come out and endorsed Measure 91. That was on the 23rd. They published the following editorial titled, "It's Time to Legalize Recreational Marijuana." Editorial endorsement. Oregon has had a wink-wink, nudge-nudge relationship with recreational marijuana use since 1998, when legalization for medical purposes created a wide-open system that distributes pot cards to just about anyone with a vague medical claim and the signature of a compliant physician. We'll get back and discuss that in a little bit. We're not suggesting that marijuana has no palliative value to those with genuine medical problems, but let's be honest. Recreational marijuana is all but legal in Oregon now and has been for years. Measure 91, which deserves Oregonian support, would eliminate the charade and give adults freer access to an intoxicant that should not have been prohibited in the first place. Opponents of the measure are right about a couple of things. Allowing retail sales of recreational marijuana inevitably will make it easier for kids to get their hands on the stuff, as will Measure 91's provision allowing Oregonians to grow their own. It's also true that outright legalization will increase the number of people driving under the influence, which is particularly problematic given the absence of a simple and reliable test for intoxication. There is no bong breathalyzer. As real as these consequences are, Oregonians should support outright legalization. No responsible adult wants kids using pot, but legalization would simply add another product to an adults-only category that includes tobacco and alcohol. There is no movement to ban alcohol in order to keep it away from kids, so why use that justification to prevent the legalization of marijuana, which in many ways is no worse. The potential increase in intoxicated driving is, again, a reason for concern, and the measure directs the Oregon Liquor Control Commission to recommend appropriate changes to the vehicle code by 2017. Let's not pretend, however, that Oregon isn't dealing with both of these problems already, thanks to the state's wink-wink medical marijuana program, which the legislature itself has made more user-friendly by legalizing dispensaries. And let's not forget what's happening right now in Washington, where adults, including Oregonians, may buy pot at retail outlets. A completely legal high is only a short drive away for anyone in the Portland metro area. Measure 91 would move Oregon from a hazy condition to almost legalization to one of rational access, guided by straightforward regulations and subject to sensible taxation. In other words, it would force Oregon's 16-year-old marijuana experiment out of adolescence and into the legal adulthood. A completely legal high is only a short drive away for anyone in the Portland area. Oh, sorry, I read that already. The OLCC would adopt the necessary rules by 2016. The tax burden imposed by Measure 91 would be more modest than that adopted in Washington. Taxes would be levied at the point of sale by producers and would range from $6 per immature plant to $35 per ounce for flowers. These rates might strike some as too low, but taxing legal pot too heavily would merely give people an incentive to keep buying on the black market. In any case, the measure directs the OLCC to review tax rates regularly and recommend appropriate changes to the legislature. Legalizing recreational marijuana probably sounds like a revolutionary concept to a lot of Oregonians, including many of those who can't wait to fill in the yes bubble on their ballots in a couple of months. Given everything that's happened on the ganja front since 1998, though, it's really not as big a step as it might seem. As of July 1st, almost 65,000 Oregonians had medical marijuana cards. And many of these 65,000 have friends with whom, just a guess, they share the fruits of the system. So widely accepted has this form of shadow legalization become that the legislature okayed dispensaries in 2013, even though voters defeated related ballot measures in 2002 and 2010. And then there's the big pot shop across the river, aka Washington. Measure 91, far from revolutionary, would simply allow Oregon adults to obtain something they may obtain now, but without having to stroll through a medical loophole or drive over a bridge to a neighboring state. The measure would be worth supporting for reasons of honesty and convenience alone, but it also would raise millions of dollars per year for schools and other purposes. For that reason, it deserves support even from those who aren't normally high on taxes. A little play on words, you notice. So anyway, there you have it, and that's the Oregonian endorsing Measure 91, in spite of a few sentences that are a little out of line. Others are actually surprisingly accurate. But the one here, quote, open system that distributes pot cards to just about anyone with a vague medical claim. That's a lie that we have to speak up to and address every time it comes up, because it spreads and spreads and it's not true. I don't remember the media outlet, but I remember that there was a reporter that was going to do a story on how easy it was to get a medical marijuana card in the state of Oregon. Well, it turned out he didn't write an article because he couldn't get the card. So anyway, that's what I think of that every time I hear that BS about how easy it is. Anybody can get a card. Even District Attorney Marquis, the clown that we'll be talking about later, even he says that. Oh, anybody can get a card, you know, and you can't say that they're just misinformed. I mean, at this point, as much as they've delved into this stuff, it's a lie. It's an out and out lie. There's no mistaking about it. So anyway, as usual, I don't mind calling law enforcement people liars when it's applicable. Okay. So let's talk about, oh yeah, this is interesting. This came out in Willamette Weekly, written by Kate Wilson. Just say no to Redux. Taxpayers will pay for an anti-drug campaign timed to hit just before the November vote on legalizing pot. So legal weed is coming to Oregon. That's the conventional wisdom anyway. And a recent poll shows 8 out of 10 Oregonians believe it's a matter of when, not if, voters erase laws against recreational use of marijuana. And a growing consensus says it will happen November 4th, when Measure 91, the latest pot legal initiative, appears on the ballot. So he goes on talking about how that the campaign has gotten donations and I think $3 million, and so the Clatsop County District Attorney Josh Markey says the Oregon District Attorneys Association plans to invest in the No on 91 campaign after an overwhelming majority of its members voted to oppose the measure. Markey said Measure 91 allows people to grow too much marijuana, 4 plants per house, a half pound per person, and will make marijuana more accessible to kids. Markey will join the taxpayer-funded tour that features Kevin Sabet, whom Stallone calls the quarterback of the new anti-drug movement. Sabet worked as an advisor to the Office of Drug Control Policy under Presidents Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. Sabet and former U.S. Representative Patrick Kennedy launched the anti-pot group Smarter Approaches to Marijuana last year after Colorado and Washington legalized marijuana. He launched a second advocacy group this year called Grass is Not Greener to oppose state legalization in campaigns. Young people are more likely to use if it's legal for adults, Sabet says. We don't need another legal drug recklessly promoted and advertised for kids. The education tour is funded through a federal drug-free community support program grant administered through the same office for which Sabet worked. While the tour is conveniently timed to begin 2 weeks before voters receive their ballot, organizers insist it's not meant to be seen as opposition to Measure 91. We are not political, says Cindy Brockett, a prevention coordinator at Best Care Treatment Services in Madras, the nonprofit that's organizing the tour. We deal with educating the public and helping them understand the harmful effects of drugs. Johnson, the chief petitioner for Yes on 91, says the tour appears to skirt campaign finance law, if not outright break it. It's a misuse of federal taxpayer dollars to campaign against a state ballot measure days before people start voting on it, he tells Willamette Weekly. Calling this an educational campaign is preposterous, and if it is legal, it shouldn't be. So there you have it. We've got the law enforcement lobby gearing up to fight Measure 91. I've been saying for quite some time that once it does pass, the next legislature is going to be a real shootout. There's going to be, for a fact, already we know that our opponents are laying plans on what they're going to do in the legislature and how they're going to try to get the bill and do this, because they've been trying to do that ever since the Oregon medical marijuana program was put into effect in 1998. They've been trying to tear it down. So it's just more of the same, but your tax dollars, by the way, indirectly would be paying for this anti-drug campaign. And so the next, we're going to take a short break shortly, and we're going to talk to you a little bit more. Another article on this idea. I'll be right back.
President Obama, stop the drug wars, the drama, arrested me for a G of Jane, comma Mary.
Take that money from the jail cells, keep it from the cartels. Don't help a drug dealer millionaire, tax weed and give a brother health care.
It's cannabis, miracle medicine that gives me bliss. Used to making rope and giving somebody hope, that sounds familiar. Be the candidate we thought you were.
Norm to the L.org.
National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Norm to the L.org.
Go to the website and help out the cause.
Welcome back to Eugene Cannabis TV. This is the second half of episode 544, and we're talking about the law enforcement lobby against Measure 91, the legalization initiative. I like to say there's two groups of people that are fighting legalization, and that is law enforcement, who would lose funding and income if legalization were to happen, and then, of course, people in the black market. Because once it's cheaper, when it's legal, the price goes down. That's the reason there is a black market, it's because it's illegal. So once it's legal, the price goes down and the black market disappears. When I say black market, most people think of the cartels and all that, But a large portion of the black market is what we don't want to talk about is the large segment, and not about large segment, but anyway, medical marijuana card holders that are dabbling in the black market, some a little more than others, but there's a lot of it going on, and those are the ones that I believe are the ones that are trying to spread the fear stories about how it would mess up the medical program. In reality, it won't. Measure 91, 3 different places in the text of the initiative states that it will not change the Oregon medical marijuana law. So there's a lot of false information being spread around. But anyway, speaking of false information being spread around, I just did a story about the tour, the anti-marijuana tour. It's just coincidentally what was supposed to happen 2 weeks before the election. So, and that was an article that was dated on the 20th out of the Eugene Weekly, the Willamette Weekly out of Portland. So, here we go. The next day, this is August 21st, an article on Oregon Live, which is the Oregonian's internet version. This is written by Jeff Mapes. Sponsors cancel the drug summit segment in Madras after facing criticism from marijuana legalization advocates. A non-profit group has canceled an October anti-drug summit in Madras, which was to feature a prominent opponent of marijuana legalization after complaints were raised by sponsors of the ballot measure that would permit recreational use of the drug. The sponsors of the legalization initiative, Measure 91, charged this week that it was wrong for summit organizers to use federal funds to help pay for an appearance by Kevin Sabet, a former White House drug advisor who has formed an organization opposing marijuana legalization. Sabet was also scheduled to appear in 12 other Oregon cities as part of an Oregon marijuana education tour following the summit. Sabet said that at the request of organizers, he would not talk about the ballot measure at either the Madras event or on the tour. That remains to be seen. Rick Trelvin, the executive director of Best Care Treatment Practices and the organizer of the Madras Summit, said he decided to cancel the summit because he, quote, could see from an outside perspective that it could look like a conflict, unquote. Trelvin, whose nonprofit that runs community mental health programs for Jefferson County, said he did not know if the 12-city tour featuring Sabet would still take place. It depends on what the other folks do, he said, referring to the local sponsors, some of whom are also using federal anti-drug grants to pay for the events. However, Anthony Johnson, chief sponsor of the marijuana legalization measure, said Wednesday that the heavy focus on marijuana during the summit and on the tour smacked of electioneering using federal money, even if participants did not specifically discuss the initiative. Johnson could not be reached Thursday morning, but Peter Zuckerman, a spokesman for the campaign, said sponsors did the right thing in canceling the summit and would do the same for the 12-city tour. Federal tax dollars should not be used to influence an election, he said. Calling this an educational campaign is ludicrous. So, anyway, there you have it. So at least they canceled the summit. The word I got on the internet on the activist emails is they're saying that they're still going to keep an eye on them because they're thinking they might go ahead and have the summit anyway. Announce that it's canceled, but still have it. But anyway, they're going to be keeping an eye on that. And the other thing I want to mention, I was speaking of Measure 91. I just got a call today, and they're opening up a campaign office here in Eugene. I have the email and the phone number, which of course I forgot to bring with me, but I'll have it next week's show, and if you need it before then, I hope you do, send me an email at dankbagman@hotmail.com. That's dank, D-A-N-K, bagman@hotmail.com, and I can send you that information. What we're doing is we're registering people to vote, and that's the biggest drive right now is we got to get as many people registered to vote and get them to vote as possible. We need the numbers. Also, we always have to remind voters that in Oregon, felons can vote, and that's a very common misconception that people believe they cannot, but they can. There's a specific law that in Oregon that specifically says that felons can vote. So if you're a felon and haven't been, I think you haven't been able to vote, well, you can. So now's the time, and we need, like I said, we need the numbers. Again, I mentioned earlier, the deadline to register to vote is October 14th, and that's 1 month and 19 days from now. So you can go to the post office, pick up a form. You can go to the library and pick up a form. Hopefully we'll have somebody down at Saturday Market. I haven't been able to set my booth up like I usually do, but hopefully when you get somebody down there to set up, then the cards could be down there. You can go down there and register to vote. As Anthony Johnson says, we're in great shape to win, but it's not a done deal. So we've got to get the numbers and get people registered. I want to talk about some events coming up. We were supposed to have a guest tonight. Our friend Jerry Norton was coming, and he couldn't make it, I guess, but hopefully he'll be here next week. He is the organizer for the Oregon Cannabis Convention. And this is something I'm looking forward to. It's going to be at the Portland Expo Center, Portland, Oregon, September 5th and 6th. And it's free admission, which I always like that word, free. If you want to check that out, you can go to its website. That's what it is. It's OregonCannabisConvention.com. Real easy to remember. And check it out. Jerry is giving us a booth, the Hemp Fest, the Emerald Empire Hemp Fest, Eugene Cannabis TV, and the Willamette Valley Normal. All three will be represented in our booth up there. So I hope you can, as many people from Eugene can make it. The next thing coming up is the International Cannabis Business Conference. This is being put on by of course my mind went blank, I can't tell you his name, but anyway, this is not free admission. This is $499 admission. So this is for business people that are really serious about wanting to make some money off of the marijuana business legally. So that's the International Cannabis Business Conference. The website is internationalcbc.com, which could stand for Cannabis Business Conference. So that's internationalcbc.com. And then September 27th and 28th is Hempstalk, and that's always an incredible event. Again, that's free admission, just as the Emerald Empire Hemp Fest is. Our friends at THC Foundation, especially Paul Stanford, the CEO, is putting that on, has been for a number of years. Not quite as long as the Emerald Empire Hemp Fest, but almost. And the thing about the THC Foundation is that they've been sponsoring us, our Hemp Fest, for a number of years. So definitely encourage you to go up to Portland and support Paul and the THC Foundation's Hemp Fest. Again, it's free admission. You can check it out on the website, and that's it's just hempstalk.org. It's just that simple. Hempstalk, like the stalk on a pot plant, I guess. So anyway, those are three events that are coming up, and make some special arrangements and try to get to those. All three of them are in Portland, coincidentally, but it's 120 miles. And that reminds me, speaking of Portland, we just, I say we, my friend Chris McAllister, who's been on the show, or no, wait a minute, no, he had been on the show yet, has he? Anyway, he will be on the show. But anyway, we went up to the Oregon Growers Association launch. It's an association of medical marijuana growers in the state of Oregon. It was last Friday, the 22nd. It was a great event, great speakers, great turnout. They were hoping for 150 people, and they had over 400. It was a good time. Ran into some old friends and made new ones. So it was just an ideal event. Again, I don't know where this $500 figure, but that's to join the Growers Association is also $500. So it seems business people that are wrapped up in marijuana, it seems like $500 is just kind of 500 here, 500 there, you know, it's $500. I'm hoping that they'll have some kind of a tier system in their membership, because what about growers like myself? You know, I have 2 patients, which means I have 12 plants in the ground. How can I pay $500 to be part of an organization to represent me and for me to get training that I would need that they have available at, you know, for $500? So they're going to have to do something a little bit different there, I think. But I do support the idea, and it's a great thing. You think about it, have an association of marijuana growers that can get together, network. go together on, lawyers and lawyer services, all that. So it could be a good thing. So anyway, that's enough announcements. I got to get into this interesting editorial that came up, and then a response from another normal chapter. This is dated the 11th of August, and this is an editorial in the Denver Post. It says, Lab Rat Teen Pot Program is a worthy effort. It says, what they're doing here is that they set up the, it says teenagers may be risk takers, but they won't set out deliberately in a path to cripple their ability to think. At least that's the idea behind the new Don't Be a Lab Rat campaign launched by the state of Colorado and Denver to prevent teen marijuana use. It is an important effort, or at least could be if the lab rat cage installations that have gone up around Denver don't become objects of ridicule among youth. These cages are clever and visible, but they're also heavy-handed, and kids don't react well to over-the-top drug messages. The campaign's overall message is worth hearing, though. Controversial studies have suggested marijuana use among teens may cause lasting memory loss, reduction in IQ, and schizophrenia. The campaign mentions these findings, which while acknowledging maybe years before they can be proved or debunked. Then it basically asks teens whether they want to be experimental volunteers to resolve the controversy by using marijuana. Well, then we had an answer to that came from Sabrina Fenrick, the Washington, D.C. chapter, and she writes back and says the Denver Post endorsement of Colorado's latest anti-pot campaign, though well-intentioned, fails to recognize that the tactics employed by the state include putting human-sized rat cages as large props on street corners and running shock and awe type TV ads will do nothing to discourage teen use. So anyway, they were right back and they have some great points on why that isn't such a great idea. You have to be careful what you say to youth, because they can turn around and use it against you. So, and you always got to tell the truth. Anyway, come back next week and see the show. We'll be here. Thank you.